Hello again. A few members of my family have been caught up in the testing and isolating business in the course of the last week, and I cannot help but notice that all three have had mild sniffles, the kind of thing which would not, even in the usual way of things, justify a single day off work. Indeed, according to the experts, most people now with colds or symptoms of colds actually have the illness, the dreaded virus, but it's indistinguishable from the common cold, which is curious. However, in accordance with instructions received, all three of my relatives are isolating for 10 days, which means the best part of a fortnight off work. Since this particular virus is now doing the rounds, it means we are short of train drivers, school teachers, hospital staff, and practically every other kind of worker. The number of deaths isn't rising. Neither is there a crisis in the number of intensive care places in hospitals. Nevertheless, we are seeing pictures of emergency hospitals being built to cope with the supposed crisis. Anybody remember the same thing about 18 months ago? It seems likely that many schools will either not be opening in January or be sending their children home shortly after opening, which will increase the atmosphere of a terrible crisis and, of course, cause more people to take time off work because they won't be able to leave their children at home. This, in turn, will cause more shortages of essential workers. If I did not know any better, I might be inclined to think that this whole business is being needlessly prolonged. Simply gasping at the number of cases, as the BBC newspapers and various experts are doing at the moment, is pointless and irrelevant, whether it's 100,000, 150, 190,000. If there are 100,000 cases, but only one or two people die and a couple more end up in hospital, then that is not really a remarkable state of affairs, still less one which requires the country to grind to a halt. Forcing people to take a week or two off work for something which amounts only to a sniffle doesn't seem to make much sense, unless there is a real risk of many people ending up in intensive care or dying. So far, despite the astonishingly high number of cases, this does not seem to be happening, at least according to the government's own figures. All this makes one wonder how much longer this crisis will go on for. It will soon have been 2 years, and the way things are going, there's no end in sight, and unless something changes dramatically, we'll be facing the same situation next Christmas as well. I'm less worried that this is a sinister plot than that it's become more or less a way of life. It is a perfect answer for every company now when you ring up. It can be blamed for everything. The NHS will always now have a ready-made excuse for any failings, and schools are no longer to blame for the academic failure of their pupils either. Trains need not run on time, and facilities can simply be closed down, ostensibly because of the crisis, but in fact because it saves staff. They don't have to waste time cleaning things. The crisis is covering an awful lot of failings, and I cannot see why anybody would want to lose such a great alibi for slackness and inefficiency. I have an idea that since it's in nobody's interests to end this state of affairs, it's likely to rumble on indefinitely. I think that they're calling it the new normal.